If you're subscribed to this channel, then you know that I recently wanted to upgrade my old CFL style softbox lights to newer LED style lights. In fact, in the spirit of new, I ended up ordering a set of newer LED lights, which cost me about $200 US. After receiving them, I was shocked at just how bad the quality was, even after exchanging my first set because it had some broken plastic pieces in the kit. The second set was no better. I was honestly quite devastated because I knew that I was ready to upgrade to something a bit more professional, but something like the popular Aperture 120D that you see a lot of other YouTubers and stuff using was just completely out of my price range at a whopping $745 US for just the light. That's when I ran across a light people were calling the budget-friendly Aperture 120D, which is the GODOX SL60W. It was a bit more than I was looking to spend, but I decided to pull the trigger as I just couldn't find anything in the $200 range that included two lights and didn't seem like it was going to be a complete waste of money. Basically, everything in that $200 range looked like cheap crap. The GODOX SL60W cost me just $134 US per light compared to the $745 that I would have spent on an Aperture 120D. But the real question is it any good, and how does it actually compare to an Aperture 120D? Well, let's roll the intro and jump into my review. If you've ever watched any of my reviews on this channel, then you know I'm not big into going over the technical details of products. I do like to run through the specs real quick, but then I like to dive into my own experiences with the product, as I think that's what actually helps people decide if a product is the right buy for them or not. Also, there are tons of videos out there that can go over the specs and even validate with tools those specs and whether they live up to the claims that are presented by the companies. That's just something I'm not able to do as I don't have the equipment for it. So with that said, let's run through the claim specs from GODOX and then jump directly into my experiences with using these lights after about a month or so. The SL60W is a daylight balanced light sitting at 5600 Kelvin with a 60 watt chip on board LED light. You cannot adjust the Kelvin of this light. This brightness is loosely equivalent to a 600 watt incandescent or 300 watt halogen bulb. The brightness of the LED can be adjusted from full power of 100% down to 10%. I'm not sure why they limit you to 10%, as the Aperture 120D is able to adjust down to a 1% output. However, this hasn't been an issue at all for me, and 10% is able to get the light dim enough for any needs I've encountered thus far. It has a CRI of 95 plus, a TLCI of 90 plus, and a R9 of 90 plus, at least according to the user manual that comes with it. I have seen these numbers shift around a bit, whether it's the listing on Amazon or on BH Photo, but directly from GODOX, those numbers are what they're saying the light is rated at. What this basically means is that this light causes colors to be accurate to real life, and that the light won't cause colors to look differently on video than they do with the naked eye. All of these ratings are considered to be in the excellent range, and while others have talked about a magenta hue to the lights or other weird quirks like flickering, I've personally had zero issues with either of the two that I purchased. It has an LCD panel on both the back of the light as well as the included remote, which allows you to operate 6 different groups of lights over 16 different frequencies. Some reviews made complaints about the fan noise that these lights produce. However, GODOX in their newer versions of this light has seemingly addressed this issue, and the fans are much quieter than they previously were. I ordered 2 of these, as I said, and neither have a fan that I would consider to be loud at all, nor that I think gets picked up in my videos. They also use the Bowens mount system for attaching accessories like softboxes, which is the industry standard and is a huge plus in my opinion. And lastly, unlike the Aperture 120D, they don't include any kind of power brick and simply have a nice long cord, which is approximately 15 to 20 feet long. And that's about it for the specs of this light, which then leads me to the actual review and my experiences with using these lights for about a month, as I said earlier. So first, before anything else, let's just get this out of the way. The question most people are wondering if they're watching these reviews. Are these just as good as the Aperture 120D lights? Can you really get the same light that costs $745 for $134? The answer? Fuck no. I mean, come on, duh. Of course the Aperture 120D is built a little better. It doesn't use as much plastic as the GODOX does. It allows you to dim the light down a bit further, and it allows the max brightness to be a bit brighter than the GODOX. But here's the more important question. Is there any reason to spend the extra money, almost 5 times, for these couple extra features? Let me put it this way. You could break the GODOX SL60W 6 times before reaching a cost higher than the cost of just one of the Aperture 120Ds for just a bit better dimming potential and a bit more brightness and build quality. The question I think most people actually are asking when they're looking at lights like this are, which is the better buy? Which is the best bang for the buck? Am I gonna get screwed by going the cheap route? And the answer, without a doubt, is that the GODOX SL60W easily wins this category. This light is phenomenal. It's amazing. It's the bee's knees, as the youngsters are saying. Don't believe me? Just watch any of the other dozen or so reviews of this light on YouTube that you've probably already watched. It's hard to find anyone shitting on this light. Yet here you sit watching another one, still trying to decide if you should buy it or not. Outside of some very specific use cases like shooting in high frame rates, 120 FPS or 240 FPS, where you can't get the light close enough to the object that you're shooting, and you would actually need that additional brightness that the 120D provides, they're almost identical in real world performance. And if you actually needed more power, more brightness, simply get the GODOX SL100, 150, or the 200. Even the highest watt version, the SL200W, is only $399 US compared to the $745 Aperture 120D. I was able to pick up each light with a stand and a GODOX softbox for about $200 US. If you compare that to the 120D, with a stand and an Aperture softbox, you'd easily be looking at $900 to $1,000 US in total cost. Are there some downsides to the GODOX light? Sure, but there's downsides to the Aperture 120D as well, like the giant ass power bricks that you get with them. No product is ever 100% perfect. There's always things people wish were better with any product they buy, but for the price, you are getting an absolutely amazing product. But for the sake of appeasing the masses, let's discuss some of the downsides to the SL60W. First, the handle to tighten the light in place is made of plastic, and sometimes it feels a bit cheap, like you could break it by over-tightening it. This is something I've seen a lot of other reviewers touch on. However, I've not actually seen anyone who has broke theirs, and if you want, you can replace the handle with a metal one off of Amazon for a pretty small fee. The remote and the light don't stay in sync. So for example, if you have the light set to 100% using the dial on the light, in terms of its brightness, and the last time you used the remote to adjust the brightness, you had it set to 25%, and after you adjust the dial to 100% on the light and then go back to the remote and press the remote button to lower the brightness, instead of going from 100% to 99, it'll go off the remote and go from 25% down to 24%, thus leaving you with a brightness of 24. So it'll jump all the way from 100 down to 24%. This isn't a huge deal, it just means you probably don't want to use them back and forth. You want to kind of pick one method, either use the back of the lights or use the remote and stick with that. Also, in regards to the remote, if you turn the light off using it, it doesn't actually power off the light. The LCD screen and the fan on the light will still run. The only way to fully power down the light is to actually use the power switch that's on the back of the unit. Now there are also some reviews out there that when using the remote, the lowest that they're able to adjust the brightness is from 100% down to 25%. As with the fan, I think this is something that GODOX changed with the newer iterations of this light, as I'm able to adjust my brightness with the remote the entire range of 100% down to 10%. The downside is that there's no way to tell when you're buying one of these lights if you're getting the older version or you're getting the newer version. So you could be getting the one with the loud fans and the remote that doesn't allow you to adjust the brightness to full range, or you could be getting the newer version where a lot of these issues were addressed. So my recommendation would be to buy these lights from somewhere like Amazon or B&H Photo, where you can easily return them if needed, in some off chance that you get one that might be the older version. These lights also cannot be run off of batteries, which the Aperture 120D can. So if you're traveling a lot with these and may need lighting where you don't have a readily available power source, that could be a downside. However, you could buy this version and the battery only version and still be less money than the 120D by quite a bit. And lastly, speaking of traveling, some people complain that the SL60W doesn't come with a carrying bag like the Aperture 120D does. However, I don't really consider this a negative because if you need a bag, the savings more than pays for it. And if you don't, because your lights stay pretty stationary like mine, then you're getting the best bang for your buck by GODOX cutting costs where they can. For myself, the pros of this light far outweigh any of the negatives, and I'd happily buy this light again and again. I purchased 2 of these with light stands and with GODOX softboxes for approximately $400 US, well below the cost of just one Aperture 120D without a light stand or softbox at all. And honestly, I could not be happier with my decision. It is by far one of the best budget-friendly products that I have purchased in a long time. Now, of course, I'd love to see some of the issues I mentioned fixed, but it does seem that GODOX is already listening by addressing the issues both with the fans and the remote being able to fully dim the lights. And they've already released a version 2 of their SL100, 150, and 200 lights, which features a better clamp for tightening down the lights, which means we could be seeing a version 2 for the SL60 coming soon. If you're interested in these lights, I'll link them down in the description below, as well as the light stands and the soft boxes that I purchased for them, and may even do a review of the soft boxes at some point, as I think they were a great fucking value as well, if I'm being completely honest. And if you have any specific questions at all, I'm happy to answer them as always in the comments below. I hang out in there pretty regularly and respond to almost everybody. But I can almost promise you that if you purchase these lights over something like the 120D, you're going to be completely satisfied with your purchase and have no regrets whatsoever. With that said, thanks so much for watching, and if this video helped you out, please consider leaving a like, as that helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And if you enjoy videos related to technology, gaming, and content creation like this one, consider subscribing and ringing the bell to be notified when I post new videos. And until next time, peace out, everybody.